An eye test starts in rooms like these. They're called examination rooms. And having your eyes tested might sound a little bit scary, but if you've had your eyes tested, then you know that it doesn't hurt at all. Oh, look! This is the first machine that's used to test our eyes. It's called an autorefractor, and it works just like peering through a window. Oh, and this is Dan. Dan's the optometrist who's going to test my eyes to show us how an eye test works. Oh, I can see a red hot air balloon at the end of a road, but it's all blurry. Dan is controlling how the picture looks. Can you hear the whirring sound as he changes it? And now the balloon has become clear. The machine shows him my eye really close up. Oh, well, that was easy. The autorefractor measures how well our eyes focus, and that means how clearly we see something. But to find out how the autorefractor measures this, we need to take a closer look inside the eye. Our eyes need light for us to see. The autorefractor machine shines light into the front of your eye and measures how far it travels. If the eye is working well, the light will reach the retina at the back of your eye. This allows your eyes to see the balloon nice and clearly. If the eyeball is too long, the light doesn't reach all the way to the back of the eye, which means that when the balloon is far away, it becomes blurry. But when it's close up, it becomes clear. Lots of people's eyes are like this. It's called short-sighted. If the eyeball is too short, the light focuses beyond the back of the eye. So when the balloon is close up, it becomes blurry. But when it's far away, the eyes see it clearly. Lots of people's eyes are like this too. It's called long-sighted. If your eyes are short-sighted or long-sighted, the optometrist puts special lenses in your glasses, which makes the light reach the back of your eye perfectly. So when you wear the right glasses, your eyes can see everything clearly. How clever is that? Remember, you should never shine lights in your eyes at home. Now, it's my turn to come and sit in this chair. This time, Dan is going to check how well my eyes work when I look at the detail of objects that are far away. And Dan is using this chart with shapes on it. I'm looking at the shapes through this mirror, which makes them look even further away. Do you know what the shapes are? Let's see from the top. House, bird, clock, car, fish. Bird, clock, house, apple, cup. Can you see what's happening to the shapes? They're getting smaller and smaller. That's so Dan can tell how much detail my eyes see when things are far away. So finally, the bottom line: cup, shoe, apple, car, fish.
Perfect.
Did you see the shapes? Next, Dan's going to test the strength of my eyes using a pair of trial frames. They look like a pair of robot glasses. Dan is using a special torch called a retinoscope. He puts different lenses in the trial glasses, and the retinoscope helps him see how the light passes through each lens.
Thanks, Maddie. I'm pleased to say your eyes are fine.
So, I don't need glasses, but if you do, this is when your optometrist will tell you the strength of lenses that you need. This last machine is called a retinal camera. It's a very special camera that Dan will use to see right into the back of my eye to check that they're nice and healthy.
And just keep looking straight ahead.
Let's go. It works like a microscope, which means it can show all the small details. Did you hear that sound? That was the sound of the camera taking a picture. Did you see the bright flash? Makes your eyes a little blurry at first, but they quickly go back to normal. Right, well, that's it. Should we take a look at the picture? Wow, that is what the back of an eye looks like. You can even see the tiny blood vessels. That's so clever. I loved seeing how an eye test works. Did you? What was your favourite bit?
Do you remember what you call the machine that checked how far you can see? It's called an autorefractor. Did you hear the sound the retinal camera made when it took a picture of my eye?
Oh!
And did you see the blood vessels in the photograph of the back of the eye? Nano goes everywhere with Yasmin, and he can smell everything. Every plant, every tree, every insect, because everything has its own special smell. And that smell is called an odour. All foods have their own odours to help us know what they are. Some foods have a strong odour, like bananas, onions, and fish. And Nano's nose has been trained to detect the odour of nuts in food. But to find out how Nano's nose works to smell nuts, I think we need to take a closer look. Dogs' noses work differently from humans. We breathe straight in and out. But when a dog smells, he wiggles his nostrils to open and close slits at the side of his nose. This causes air to swirl around the nostrils, which pulls more odour into the nose. This means a dog is sniffing in air and odours all the time. When a dog breathes in air through its nose, it goes in two different directions. Some of the air is sent to the lungs for breathing, and some is sent to a special part used for smelling, called the olfactory. Inside the olfactory are 300 million sensor cells. If the olfactory cells in Nano's nose find a nut odour in the air, they send a message to Nano's brain. So he alerts the owner that there are nuts in the food or nearby, so that the owner doesn't eat them and stay safe. How clever is that? To find out how Nano has been trained to use his nose, I've come to a special training centre. And it takes just over a year to train a dog to use its nose and alert its owner. This is the biodetection room, and it's where we can test to find out if Nano's nose is working to sniff out the smell of a peanut. And inside, we have 5 silver pots, and hidden underneath each one is a different thing. This one has a tea bag underneath. Here we have a tennis ball, a kiwi. This one is empty. Ooh. And this one has peanuts underneath. Yasmin is going to ask Nano to sniff each of the pots, and let's see if he can find the one with peanuts underneath. Nano has been taught to tap the top of the pot he thinks has the nuts in. He's also been trained to wear a harness for my special camera, so we can see what he sees. I think we're ready, don't you? Let's go. Can you remember which pot had the nuts in? Let's see if Nano can sniff it out. He's having a good sniff. No taps yet. Where are those nuts? Can you see? He's tapping the top of the silver pot at the end. Do you think that's the one with peanuts in? Should we check he got it right? Yeah, first time. That is one clever dog with a very clever nose. But this was a smell test in an empty room. How does Nano help his owner Yasmin in everyday life? Let's try a test outside, where there are lots more smells all around. I'm setting up 2 picnic areas. The first one doesn't have any nuts in, but in the second, I'm going to place a peanut butter sandwich. Let's see if Nano can smell the peanut butter sandwich. Because this is a test, and we don't want Nano to get any peanut butter on him, I'm covering it with a plate. Here comes Nano. No nuts there.
Good boy. They're going over to the picnic with the peanut butter sandwich. What do you think Nano's going to do? Good boy. That's right. Nano is tapping the chair with the peanut butter sandwich on. He's found it. What a clever dog. This is a barber's chair, and it's where we sit to have our hair cut, and it's really fun to sit on. We get our hair cut because our hair grows a tiny bit every day. And most people's hair grows about 1 millimetre a day. That's about the same as the tip of this pencil lead. And in a month, our hair grows around 1.5 centimetres. That's about this long. You must never try to cut your own hair. Always get a grown-up to do it.
This is Adam the barber, and today Gabriel is getting his hair cut.
Hello.
Hello.
So, Gabriel, how do you like to have your hair cut?
On the side but not on the top.
Okay, all right, let's get going. After Adam finishes trimming the top of Gabriel's hair with scissors, he's going to cut the sides really short using clippers.
Remember, clippers should only be used by a grown-up. I'm going to show you how they work.
This type of clipper is called a magnetic clipper. They make a great sound, don't they? What do you think it sounds like? I think it sounds like a buzzing bee. And they move so fast, it looks blurry. Let's take a closer look.
Hair clippers have 2 sharpened blades that look like tiny teeth. The top blade has cutting teeth, which move across from side to side. The teeth behind don't move. They hold the hair in place so it can be cut. The hair clippers are powered by electricity or batteries. When the barber switches on the hair clippers, they start to buzz. It's called vibrating. Inside the hair clippers is a copper wire wound round and round. The electricity travels through the copper wire, giving it energy. The energy is called a magnetic field. The magnetic field makes the arm vibrate against the spring, pushing the teeth from side to side. As the teeth move from side to side, they trap the hair in between, and it gets cut off.
Wow, isn't that clever? Let's have a look at the clippers with my special camera. This is a microscope, and it helps us to see really small things much bigger. So let's take a look at those metal teeth. Ready? Whoa! Look at those under the microscope. They look really pointy, don't they? Can you see the 2 sets of teeth? The one on the top and the one on the bottom. And it's that top set of teeth that move from side to side. But I think we need to see this in action, don't you? Can you hear the buzzing noise? That's the sound of the arm vibrating against the spring inside that moves the teeth from side to side. And there are little pieces of hair falling to the ground. How are you doing, Gabriel?
Good.
The teeth move so quickly, you can hardly see it.
So before Adam cuts the other side of Gabriel's hair, I'm going to set up my special slow motion camera.
Slow motion helps us to see things that are happening really quickly, much slower. The camera is switched on. Okay, Adam, ready when you are.
Wow, can you see the tiny teeth moving from side to side? And look, they're chopping off little bits of Gabriel's hair.
That looks absolutely brilliant. Have you had a good time at the hairdressers?
Yes, it was great.
High five. To make the lights for our police car, we have to come to a place like this. An emergency warning lights factory. Before emergency warning lights are made, they have to be designed using a computer program. Once the computer has the right design, it creates a list of parts needed to make the lights, and that gets sent to this, an electronic handset. And on the screen, it tells us where they're kept in this massive storeroom. So, what do we need? We need lots of little lights called LED lights. And these do all of the flashing. And then we need a circuit board. And a circuit board controls when and how often the lights flash. And to connect the lights to the circuit board, we need lots of colourful cables. And then we're going to need some of these. These are called lenses. They act a little bit like a lid for the lights. And finally, to put everything together, we need lots and lots of screws.
First, the base is cut out from a sheet of metal called aluminium. This is then put with all of the parts onto a mini train until it reaches the workstation.
And this is where the emergency warning light is put together. And this is Mick. He's going to be making one for us today.
First, Mick gets the base ready and starts to assemble the parts.
Next, Mick screws all of the LED flashing lights into the right place using something called a pneumatic screwdriver. Can you hear the sound of the pneumatic screwdriver? What do you think it sounds like? I think it sounds angry. It's time for Mick to wire all the LED lights, but there is a lot of wiring to be done and it can take a long time. So I'm going to use my special camera to film something called a time lapse. And that means when we watch this back, we can see things happening a lot quicker.
There are 15 different cables to put in. I think they look a bit like colourful spaghetti.
Wasn't that brilliant? Now all the cables are in place, it's time to plug in the circuit boards. A circuit board is like a mini computer and it sends a message to the LED lights to tell them when to flash. And they're connected by these wires. Mick has given me special permission to help him plug one of the wires in. We're nearly finished. Just need to put the lenses on the top, like a lid. The last workstation is really important because it's where the emergency warning lights are tested to make sure they're working properly. Ready, Mick? Here we go. Look, they're working. Oh, they look great, don't they? What colours can you see? There's blue, red, and white. Thank you. Right, let's get this fixed onto the top of our police car.
The lights have to be screwed in place and then wired into the police car's electrics. In total, it takes about 7 hours.
And there you have it, a finished police car with brand new emergency warning lights. And I've got special permission to switch them on. Wow, looks like everything's working properly. Don't they look brilliant? To find
out how a spacesuit is made, I've come here to a space museum. Space begins around 60 miles above our planet, Earth. In space, our bodies float, and there's no air to breathe outside a spacecraft. So astronauts have to wear spacesuits when they travel to space and when they work outside a spacecraft. And this is a real-life, actual spacesuit. If we look here on the astronaut's arm, can you see there's a little mirror on a piece of elastic? They use it so they can see the controls on the front of the spacesuit, because as soon as they put the helmet on, they can't look downwards, so they need the mirror to be able to see. Now, because there's no air in space and we need air to breathe, the spacesuit will hold tanks of oxygen. And oxygen is in the air that we breathe, and it will flow into the suit so the astronaut can breathe easily. The material is really thick and very strong, but that's because it's made up of 14 layers of different materials. This shows us all 14 different layers, and can you see they sit on top of each other, a little bit like a sandwich. And this here has a tube running through it, and cold water runs through that tube, so when it sits against an astronaut's skin, it helps to keep them cool. This layer here is made of a material called ripstop, and it stops the astronaut suit from ripping. The next 7 layers are made of this silver, shiny material called mylar, and that traps heat inside the suit. And then this last layer here is really strong. It's fireproof and waterproof, so it's a little bit like astronaut armour. How brilliant is that? It can be very cold out in space, so I'm going to show you just how the mylar material helps keep an astronaut warm. Let's set this up just here. This is my special thermal imaging camera, and it shows me how hot or cold things are using different colours. Can you see, at the moment, my body is an orangey red colour, and that's because my body heat is escaping to the outside through my thin cotton clothes. So if an astronaut wore thin clothes like this in space, all of their body heat would escape and they would get very cold very quickly. So what do you think is going to happen when I wrap this big sheet of mylar around me? Let's find out. Look, the thermal camera is showing the outside of the mylar as a bluey purpley colour. What the mylar is doing is it's trapping my body heat inside and stopping it from escaping to the outside world. If I open the mylar up, you can see my body is still nice and warm, and that's why an astronaut's spacesuit has 7 layers of mylar inside it to stop the astronaut getting cold. This is a copy of a suit that an astronaut wears for launch and landing. That's when they leave for space and come back again. And I've got special permission to try it on. The launch suit has attachments on the front for air and electricity, a zip shaped like a V, and a sealed helmet to protect the astronaut. Ta-da! How do I look? And I even get to try on a real space glove. The amazing thing about an astronaut's gloves is that they are made to fit each astronaut perfectly. And that means they can still wiggle their fingers so they can flick switches and press the buttons needed to launch a spacecraft. The spacesuits are quite bendy too, thanks to these lines on the knees and elbows called pleats. It's extra important for the astronauts to be able to bend their knees and their arms in this suit, because during launch and landing, they have to sit in this position for up to 6 hours. Maybe I could be an astronaut one day too.